Most people look at Sydney Sweeney today and see the confidence, the fame, the red carpets. But almost no one knew what she finally admitted in a recent interview. Behind the bright lights was a teenager quietly carrying the weight of her entire family, convinced that their collapse was somehow her fault. It wasn't a headline, it wasn't public drama. It was something she'd kept buried for years until now. She revealed that while she was still chasing auditions and praying for a single breakout moment, everything back home was falling apart. And instead of blaming the world, she blamed herself. A kid thinking she was responsible for problems way bigger than she even understood. It's the kind of confession that changes the way you see her story, because it wasn't just about making it in Hollywood. It was about trying to save her family from unraveling completely. The decision to leave Spokane wasn't some glamorous Hollywood dream. It was a leap into the unknown. Sydney was still just a kid when she convinced her parents to uproot everything and move to Los Angeles so she could chase acting. And at first it felt exciting, almost unreal. But the reality hit fast. LA wasn't anything like the quiet streets they came from. Rent was higher than they expected. Bills stacked up quicker than anyone could keep up with. And suddenly the family found themselves fighting to stay afloat in a city that didn't care how hard they were trying. Sydney felt every bit of that pressure. While other teens were hanging out after school, she was bouncing from audition to audition, taking any small role she could get just to feel like she was helping. She wasn't thinking about fame. She was thinking about keeping her parents hopeful, making sure they didn't regret turning their whole life upside down for her. Every time she booked a tiny part, it felt like she was buying them one more month, one more chance. But even then, she could sense the tension at home building, and in her mind, the blame kept pointing back at her. And the truth is, things were only about to get harder. As the months stretched into years, the pressure inside the Sweeney household kept tightening. The signs started small, hushed conversations behind closed doors, bills left unopened on the counter, but everything cracked the day her dad lost his job. That single moment sent their entire world into a spiral. Suddenly, the family that had already been scraping by in one of the most expensive cities in the country found themselves with no safety net at all. And Sydney, barely 16, was watching the ground disappear beneath them. Bankruptcy became the only option. At an age when most teens are thinking about driving or school dances, she was watching her parents file paperwork that said everything they'd worked for was gone. And instead of understanding that adults make their own choices, she convinced herself she was the reason it all happened. The move, the struggle, the collapse. The guilt wasn't something anyone put on her. She put it on herself. Then came the divorce. The final hit. Her family split apart while she was still trying to figure out who she was. And she carried this quiet belief that if she hadn't asked them to move, if she hadn't wanted to act, maybe everything would have stayed together. It didn't matter. That none of it was her fault. In her mind, every broken piece traced back to her dream. And that belief would shape everything she did next. With her family breaking apart and the guilt sitting heavy on her shoulders, Sydney threw herself into acting like it was the only lifeline she had left. She wasn't chasing fame, she was chasing a way to fix everything. From 2009 to 2017, she took every role she could find. Tiny parts on Heroes, quick appearances on Criminal Minds, background characters that most people would never remember. But for her, each job felt like progress, one step closer to undoing the damage she believed she'd caused. While other teens were worried about homework or weekend plans, she was studying scripts, waking up early for auditions, and convincing herself that every no from casting directors was another setback for her family. She built this idea in her head that if she could just become successful fast enough, she could buy back the home they lost, pull everyone under the same roof again, and somehow rewind their entire story. Turning 18 became this imaginary finish line, the moment she'd finally have access to her saved earnings and use them to put her family back together. She carried adult pressure long before she was even an adult, measuring her self-worth by whether she could rescue the people she loved. And the closer she got to 18, the more she clung to the hope that everything she'd worked for was about to pay off, even though she had no idea what was waiting for her on the other side. Turning 18 felt like the moment Sydney's life would finally start to make sense. She imagined opening her Coogan account, the special savings set, aside for child actors, and seeing thousands of dollars waiting to help her fix everything. She pictured herself buying back her parents' house, patching the pieces of her family's broken life, and finally breathing a little easier. But when she checked the account, the dream collapsed. Instead of a small fortune, there were barely a few $100s. The shock hit her hard. Everything she had built, all the sacrifices and long days on set, hadn't created the safety net she'd imagined. For the first time, she realized that no amount of work or talent could magically undo the struggles her family had faced. It was a turning point, a lesson in harsh reality that shaped the way she approached her career from that moment forward. Success wasn't just about money or recognition anymore. It became about proving to herself that she could survive, thrive, and find a way to move forward even when life didn't play fair. And that determination would soon lead to the breakthrough roles that would change everything. By 2018, Sydney Sweeney's hard work finally started to pay off, but even her breakout success came with its own weight. She landed notable roles in Sharp Objects and Everything Sucks. And while fans were just discovering her talent, she was already carrying the invisible burden of years spent trying to fix her family. Later, Euphoria would cement her as one of Hollywood's most talked about young stars, but behind the glitz and glowing reviews, she was still that teenager who felt responsible for everything that had gone wrong at home. Every award, every nomination, every spotlighted moment on set became another reminder of the promise she had made to herself. That success wasn't just for her, it was for the family she loved. Even as the world celebrated her rising star, she was privately pushing herself harder than ever, believing that the higher she climbed, the more she could somehow make up for the years of struggle and loss. And this quiet, personal pressure would shape not just her career choices, but the very way she approached life in the public eye. While Sydney was rising in Hollywood, her parents were building lives far removed from the spotlight. Her mother, Lisa, had already sacrificed her career as a criminal defense attorney to focus on raising Sydney and her brother, putting her own ambitions on hold for the family. Meanwhile, her father, Stephen, retreated even further from the world she was entering, choosing a quiet life on a ranch in Mexico with no internet or cell service, a place completely disconnected from Hollywood's chaos. Even from miles away, Sydney senses his pride. He may not follow every red carpet appearance or binge-watch every show, but she knows he's watching from afar in his own way, quietly impressed by the woman she's become. And that distant support became a kind of anchor for her, a reminder that the sacrifices they all made, whether visible or hidden, were worth it. But despite the distance and the different paths, the pull to reconcile her past with her present still drives her. Every decision in the spotlight. After years of carrying the weight of guilt and responsibility, Sydney finally reached a milestone that felt like true closure. In 2024, she revealed that she had paid off her mother's mortgage, a quiet but powerful victory that symbolized how far she had come from the teenage girl who once believed she had ruined everything. It wasn't just about the money. It was proof that all those early sacrifices, all the auditions, all the late nights chasing roles, had led to something meaningful for the people she loved most. This moment also highlighted the transformation in her own mindset. The guilt that had haunted her for years slowly gave way to pride, gratitude, and a sense of agency. Sydney had gone from a child thinking she could control her family's fate to a young woman using her hard-earned success to give back. And it was a reminder to fans that even Hollywood stars carry hidden stories, and that the journey to triumph often comes with struggles nobody sees on the surface. Sydney Sweeney's story reminds us that fame and success often hide untold struggles. Behind every red carpet smile or breakout role, there can be years of unseen pressure, guilt, and personal battles that shaped who they are. What we celebrate publicly is only a fraction of the journey, the quiet moments, the sacrifices, and the mistakes that no camera ever captures. In Sydney's case, the teenager who once blamed herself for her family's hardships grew into a woman who not only conquered Hollywood but also found a way to give back and heal old wounds. It makes you wonder, how many other stars are carrying hidden stories, quietly shaping their paths while the world only sees the spotlight? And that thought alone is enough to make every success feel even more extraordinary. Even as Sydney Sweeney reached the peak of her teenage acting years, the pressure didn't stop. Hollywood has a way of glorifying success while masking the toll it takes, and Sydney knows this better than most. After her breakout in Sharp Objects and Everything Sucks, she began landing bigger, more complex roles, including the one that would define her early career, Euphoria. On set, she wasn't just another actor playing a part. She carried the experiences of a girl who felt responsible for her family's hardships, channeling that tension into every scene. And audiences responded. Fans and critics alike were captivated. But few realized the personal stakes behind her performances. Her work ethic became the stuff of legend among co-stars. Reports claim that she often arrived on set early, reviewing scripts late into the night, constantly asking questions, studying character psychology, and making notes that most young actors would consider overkill. But for Sydney, it wasn't about perfection. It was about survival. Every nuance she nailed, every scene she delivered, felt like proof that she could overcome the past she carried with her. Co-stars have described her as intensely focused yet quietly introspective, a combination that made her performances magnetic, and at times emotionally exhausting for herself. Despite the acclaim, Sydney's personal life remained under the radar, at least publicly. Rumors have circulated for years about her relationships, her off-screen habits, and even disagreements on set. Fans speculate endlessly on social media about who she's dating or whether she's facing creative conflicts. But Sydney remains cautious about what she shares. She's mentioned in interviews that she prefers keeping her personal life private, knowing that every post, story, or comment online could be dissected and turned into headlines. There's been a lot of buzz about her rumored friendships with co-stars, and while some sources hint at tense moments on set, Sydney rarely confirms or denies anything. Letting her work speak for itself. In interviews, she often reflects on the surreal nature of fame. There's a certain irony in her story. The girl who once believed she could fix everything for her parents now finds herself navigating a world where millions of strangers scrutinize every choice. She's talked about feeling like she's constantly balancing her old life with her new one, trying to remain grounded while living in a world of cameras, endorsements, and paparazzi. And it's not just about avoiding mistakes. It's about maintaining authenticity, staying true to the person who hustled through LA auditions at 16 with nothing but determination and guilt propelling her forward. Her most recent roles continue to showcase her versatility. Reports highlight her upcoming projects, including high-profile films and a potential return to streaming series. Fans speculate that she might be exploring production roles or even writing scripts herself, signaling a desire to control her creative narrative more fully. Sydney has hinted in interviews that she's selective about her projects now, a stark contrast to the early days when she accepted any role just to keep momentum. This shift reflects not just professional growth, but personal evolution. She's no longer a teen carrying the weight of her family struggles. She's a young woman shaping her own path while still honoring the sacrifices that got her here. Off camera, Sydney has begun opening up about mental health, self-care, and the long shadows of childhood responsibility. She's candid about the anxiety that comes with fame and the pressure she puts on herself to succeed in every sphere. Fans have noted that she speaks with an unusual mix of vulnerability and strength, and that duality is what makes her so compelling. In public appearances, she appears confident and polished, but behind the scenes, she's navigating the same fears, doubts, and ambitions that defined her teen years, only now with the resources and experience to confront them. Sydney's social media presence reflects this balance. While she posts glimpses of luxury, travel, and Hollywood life, she also shares moments of reflection, gratitude for mentors, appreciation for her family, and even humorous takes on the absurdity of fame. Rumors suggest that she sometimes struggles with overexposure online, carefully managing her image while also wanting to connect authentically with fans. Her posts often hint at an awareness of the performative nature of social media, a reminder that even in the digital age, the stories we see are carefully curated. Beyond her own career, Sydney has also started leveraging her platform to spotlight causes close to her heart. Sources report that she's quietly involved in charitable work and advocacy, focusing on organizations that help young actors navigate the pressures of early fame, mental health initiatives, and community outreach. This side of her life is rarely covered in tabloids, but it reflects the person she's become. Someone shaped by early responsibility, now choosing to create support systems for others who face similar challenges. Yet even with all the progress, there's always the shadow of the past. In interviews, she's admitted that certain memories from her teens, feeling responsible for her parents' bankruptcy, waking up to find bills she couldn't pay, or realizing that her Coogan account wouldn't solve everything, still linger. These aren't dramatic headlines or scandalous stories. They're the quiet, formative experiences that inform how she approaches life and work. And it's that authenticity, the willingness to acknowledge struggle without letting it define her, that has endeared her to both fans and colleagues. Sydney's story also carries a cautionary element for anyone watching from the outside. It's easy to look at success and assume it erases struggle, but she's a reminder that achievements often come with invisible debts: emotional, psychological, and relational. For Sydney, every award, every role, every headline has been layered, on top of years of guilt, responsibility, and determination. And while she's undeniably thriving today, the memory of that 16-year-old girl hustling through auditions in LA, desperate to make things right, remains a part of her identity. As her career continues to expand, Sydney remains thoughtful about her next steps. Speculation suggests she might explore roles that challenge her further, including producing or creative leadership behind the camera. She's also hinted that she wants to write, choosing projects that resonate with her personal journey. Fans eagerly follow these developments, wondering not just what she'd do next on screen, but how she continued to shape her story off-screen. There's an underlying narrative that runs through all of it. The girl who once blamed herself for her family's struggles is now a young woman in control of her own life, using her experiences to inform and inspire. And yet, the curiosity lingers. How does someone who carried so much responsibility so young balance the pressures of fame, personal growth, and family expectations? Sydney Sweeney hasn't revealed everything. There are still chapters she's keeping private, lessons she's processing, and decisions she's contemplating. But one thing is clear: the journey from Spokane to Hollywood, from guilt-ridden teen to celebrated actress, is more than just a story of fame. It's a story about resilience, accountability, and the quiet victories that happen when someone refuses to let early setbacks define their entire life. Her story leaves viewers reflecting on the hidden struggles behind the spotlight. It invites a question that goes beyond celebrity gossip. How many other stars are walking the red carpet while carrying the weight of experiences the public will never see? Sydney's journey shows that true success isn't just about recognition or wealth. It's about confronting the past, making peace with it, and finding ways to give back to oneself and to others. And for anyone watching, it's a reminder that resilience often looks ordinary from the outside, but behind the scenes, it's extraordinary. As Sydney Sweeney's career continues to flourish, her public presence has become a mix of strategic appearances and careful privacy. In the past year, she's been linked to a variety of high-profile projects, from anticipated film releases to potential streaming series, and fans are watching every move. While Hollywood is buzzing with speculation about what role she'll tackle next, Sydney remains selective, making it clear that she's focused on quality over quantity. Industry insiders report that she's increasingly involved in creative decisions, hinting at ambitions beyond acting, possibly stepping into production and even writing, which would give her more control over the stories she wants to tell. Even with her growing influence, Sydney hasn't lost the grounded perspective she developed as a teen. Hustling through auditions in LA, she frequently reflects on how early setbacks shaped her work ethic and resilience. On social media, she shares glimpses of this dual life, polished red carpet moments juxtaposed with candid reflections about personal growth, family, and mental health. It's a careful balance. She knows that every post can spark rumors, yet she uses her platform to give fans insight into her life without oversharing. Rumors often swirl about who she's dating, her friendships on set, or potential conflicts with co-stars, but Sydney rarely confirms details, keeping the focus on her craft and projects. This approach only fuels curiosity, making every appearance, tweet, or interview feel like a potential window into a life fans know exists. But only partially. Her recent interviews have also revealed a new side to Sydney, one that embraces vulnerability while maintaining poise. She talks openly about the pressures of growing up in Hollywood, the expectations that come with fame, and the lingering guilt from her family's struggles. Fans respond to this honesty, noting that it makes her relatable even amid the glamour of award shows and magazine covers. There's a recurring theme in her reflections: the idea that success is never linear, that the victories we see are often built on years of unseen effort, sacrifice, and sometimes failure. Sydney's story resonates precisely because it's both aspirational and human, showing that even stars must navigate doubt, responsibility, and the weight of personal history. As for her projects, Sydney is reportedly exploring roles that push her range as an actress. Industry insiders hint at collaborations with acclaimed directors and potential roles that delve into complex characters far removed from her earlier work. Fans on social media speculate endlessly, connecting every photo, interview, and public appearance into theories about upcoming films or series. This level of engagement reflects not just curiosity, but admiration for an actress whose journey feels authentic. Unlike some Hollywood stars whose personas are carefully manufactured, Sydney's narrative is layered, built on a foundation of real experiences, real struggles, and a work ethic that has always outpaced her peers. Her off-screen life, though largely private, occasionally surfaces in moments that remind fans of the person behind the fame. Sydney has been seen attending charity events, industry panels, and speaking engagements, often emphasizing mentorship for young actors and mental health awareness. Reports suggest she's invested in causes that mirror her personal experiences, such as guiding teens navigating the pressures of early fame and financial responsibility. This philanthropic side is rarely highlighted in tabloids but offers a deeper understanding of who she is. Someone driven not only by personal ambition, but by a desire to support others facing similar challenges. In terms of relationships, Sydney remains notoriously discreet. Rumors about on-set romances, friendships, and social circles are common, but she keeps confirmations vague, preferring to let her work define public perception. Fans speculate constantly, analyzing every Instagram comment, red carpet smile, or interview remark, yet Sydney manages to maintain a balance between engagement and privacy. This intentional distance adds an air of intrigue around her, making her both accessible and enigmatic, a combination that has contributed to her growing influence in Hollywood. Another aspect